Copyright in these lectures is either owned by the ANU or a third party who has licensed the ANU to use it. Students may use the recording for personal study only. No lecture may be communicated online, copied or shared without the prior permission of the ANU.
I'm going to talk about paper, a classical paper in economics, but it's really closely related to our efficient market, so it's not something irrelevant. It's very much relevant. And this is the paper I'm going to talk about. This focus of today's lecture. It's an old paper, right? 1945, the end year of the World War, and the author is Hayek, right? But is this really old? Not that old, because if I ask you a question, what's the year Einstein write his paper about general relativity? That's 30 years before that, 1914 or 1915, right? So until today, majority of people don't understand general relativity. Right? So this is an old paper, but still very influential. This is our focus. So actually, I copied some of my slides because last semester I teach a PhD course, and actually I copied some of the slides from that course to our course because I want to go a little bit deeper. But I promise you, this paper you will see no equation, absolutely no equation. And this is a short paper. It's just 10 pages, all words. No single mathematical equation. And for all other papers I cited, I don't require to read all the details because before our lecture, I cite many papers, right? All I require you just to understand the main conclusion or the main contribution of each of those papers. But for this one, I have different requirements. For this single short paper, I do require you to read through it and to understand every page, not just the main conclusion. So this is the only one in our whole semester I do require you to read and understand. So this is a paper. But of course, I cannot teach just based on paper, so I still write some slides. But the starting point of the slides is Jack Ma. He recently announced he will retire. Right? Jack Ma said roughly 1.5 years ago, he said a very interesting point. Over the past 100 years, we have come to believe that the market economy is the best system. But in my opinion, in his opinion, there will be a significant change in the next 3 decades. And the planned economy will become increasingly big. Actually, this is a big claim, right? Because people thought this is a dead topic. Of course, the market will win, and the planned economy or socialist economy will not work. But he said the opposite. He said he believes that this is not a dead topic. He thinks the planned economy will become more important. But maybe you may choose to believe what he said or you don't believe because people say, maybe he just trying to flattering the government. He doesn't really believe what he say. He wants just flattering the government. So the government will be nice to him, right? But interesting, I still find some Western news media, like this article. Is this kind of copy? No, sorry. The big data. Can't do this. Yeah, this Financial Times. It's not a mainstream voice, but there is a voice, even in the Western media, that some topic is like the big data revolution can revive the planned economy. So some people, not the mainstream, but some people think, okay, with today's big data and supercomputing power, the planned economy will come back. It will come back. Right? So this is our central topic, why we talk about this paper, because the title of this paper is The Use of Knowledge in Society, published American Economic Review, the top economic journal. But it's not just published in top journal. It also regarded as one of the top 20 articles published during the whole 100 years. So one of the most influential papers in economics. What is this paper is about? This paper is about the nature of price system. So in our class, price system is equivalent to market, the same thing. Market is price system. Price system is the market. They're the same thing. Okay. So, by the way, do you guys know this guy, Hayek? How many of you know this name, Hayek? Okay. I think I need to do some introduction of Hayek, right? So this is what he looks like. Of course, his dad lived a long time ago. He lived at probably the same time as Keynes. Do you know the name Keynes, the British economist? He is as influential as Keynes. By many people, think he's more influential than Keynes. Right? He's a top 3 or top 5 economist over the whole century. Right? So one of the top economists. That is how he looks like. Yeah, right. This is this paper I'm talking about, the use of knowledge in society. Right? So, of course, he won Nobel Prize, no doubt. But even among all those people who win Nobel Prize, he's one of the top. Right? And where's our slides? And I cite one comment from Yang Xiaokai. He said, Hayek's influence on human thought might be as far-reaching and pervasive as Confucius' influence on Chinese thought. This is, by the way, do you know Yang Xiaokai? How many of you know Yang Xiaokai? Oh, I'm sorry, but it's not your fault. Let's say, who is this guy, Yang Xiaokai? He's my hero. He's my hero. This is Yang Xiaokai. And why he's sort of important? Because look, of course he's ethnic Chinese, right? He was twice nominated for Nobel Prize in Economics in the year 2002 and 2003, nominated. But he ultimately didn't get it. Why? Because he died shortly after nomination, and the Nobel Prize will not reward to a dead person. So if he didn't die, absolutely, almost 100% sure, he will become the first Chinese economist who win Nobel Prize. No doubt of it. So that is why he's so such a good researcher, right? But why he's, I remember 20 years ago there was a debate between Yang Xiaokai and Lin Yifu. Do you know the guy who called Lin Yifu? Okay. Lin Yifu is like a chair professor in Beida, something like that, or the chief economist in the World Bank. And Lin Yifu believes that something called 后发优势. 后发优势 in English is called the gap, the huge gap between China on average GDP and the Western world. There is a huge gap, of course. He believes that gap is actually a blessing because there is a huge gap. So you're a newcomer, so you can be faster. So this gap is called something blessing, as a bless, right? So it's called 后发优势. But Yang Xiaokai said, no, you are absolutely wrong. This is not 后发优势 is called 后发劣势. The gap is not a bless, but a curse instead. In the short run, you can have a fast development rate, but in the long run, because of institutional barrier, you haven't changed your institutional barriers. In the long run, this gap will make your economy eventually collapse or stop to grow. But it was a very famous debate in the late 1990s when I was a student. And of course, Xiao Kai died. Unfortunately, Xiao Kai died in the year 2004. So this debate will not stopped. But I still have that debate in my mind. Is this gap a bless or is a curse? It's up to you to. Everybody has a different answer. But why he is my hero? Not because he has very excellent in doing research, but it's an older generation, right? Like the generation of my father. But when he was in high school, this Yang Xiaokai, 10 years old or 19 years old, he captured and Mao personally denounced Yang as counter-revolutionary, and he was arrested and sent to prison for 10 years. So you can imagine when you're a high school boy, you got captured and stay in prison for 10 years. So he released from the prison after he almost 30 years old, from 20 to 30 in prison. After that, he eventually got admission to Princeton University. That's 1983, and learned a PhD in economics from Princeton. Then he got a job at Australia, in this country, where Monash University, I think. So that's his experience. From high school boy to prisoner, eventually to a PhD from Princeton University. And this is about Yang Xiaokai. So I think his story tells me, even if you are as old as 30 years old, it's still not too late to start a new career, right? So he thinks Hayek's influence is so influential, just like Confucius' influence to Chinese thought. Then I come back to this paper, because what's the main question of this paper of Hayek? The use of knowledge in society. The main question is, why can central planned economy or socialist economy match the efficiency of the market economy? This is very, very old question, right? This is like century-old question, but still active. Why is it still active? Because according to recent years of trend, especially in China, the state-owned sector is actually expanding, and the private sector is under a huge pressure nowadays. It's sort of, I think it's a worrying trend, but it's a trend. So in this paper, he said, first of all, the economic problem of society is not merely how to better allocate given resources, right? So probably in your undergraduate economic courses, your teachers say, why market is good? Market is good because market is good at allocating resources, right? It's good at allocating resources. Everybody say that. But why your teacher taught you that market is good at allocating resources? What's the reason for that? I think probably your teacher told you that because your teacher's teacher told your teacher that. So just repeat what he learned. But what's the fundamental reason? Why this market can do a better job at this? So you have to give a reasoning for that. You cannot just say, look, the North Korea and South Korea, so there's evidence. Well, there could be evidence, or East Germany or West Germany, that's another evidence. But you guys learn statistics, right? So let me ask you, you have two samples. Is that statistically significant or not? Of course it's not. So it could be other reason, right? For example, the East European countries are always much poorer than the Western part, no matter before the communist revolution or not. So it could be other reason. So why the market economy is always better at doing this job? Because he said the real economic problem of the society is the problem of what is the best way to utilizing knowledge. Just as another question, what's the best way to utilizing knowledge? In this case, knowledge is the same as information. So which system is better is equivalent to ask which system can make a fuller use of knowledge. Okay, so it just changes the question a little bit. If the central planned economy can make a fuller use of knowledge, then this guy is better. Otherwise, the market will be better. So this is a standard. But the knowledge is initially dispersed among all individuals in a society, right? So the nature of knowledge or the nature of information is not in centralized format, dispersed among all individuals, all the millions or billions of individuals in the society. And there is an important kind of knowledge, the knowledge of particular circumstances of time and space. This kind of knowledge can't enter into statistics and therefore can't convey to central authority in data form. So this is a long sentence, but logically it's very short. There is some kind of knowledge. You cannot really change it into data and pass that data into central authority. It's just impossible to do that. Technically, it's impossible. So let's just use a picture to say, for example, this society has many individuals, right? Individual A, individual B, individual C, individual D, and many millions or billions of individuals. Suppose you have a central players like the central government, right? But initially, the knowledge is initially dispersed among all those individuals. So how can your central government manage this economy? You got collect information from all those different individuals, right? This is called information collection. Otherwise, there is no way you can do your job. But the question is, some important knowledge cannot be collected. They just cannot be conveyed to the central authority for all sorts of reasons. Maybe for technical reason, or maybe for other reason. I don't know. Right? They just cannot do it. Then, remember, our question is how to fuller use of knowledge. If you make these central players to do decision for each of your guys, where you live, where you should work, right? What kind of education should you get, then this decision would not be a fuller use of knowledge. It's a bad use of knowledge because he don't know everything about you. He don't know everything about everybody. So if you left the central players to do decision, then the decision would not be good. The decision sometimes would be foolish. Even if this guy in here are high IQ people, high educated people, suppose they are a nice guy, but still they do stupid decision. It's not about they are smart or not smart. It's about they don't have enough knowledge. So this is a weakness. So therefore, the ultimate decision should be left to the people or men on the spot who are familiar with particular circumstances, right? Right? This is easy to understand. So in other words, to say this is way to solve the economic problem of society, how to best utilizing knowledge by some form of decentralization. So we cannot use the central players to do the decision for everybody. But is this the end of the answer? But actually it's not, because there is a potential problem. So you will not have a central players you will have everybody, central players gone. We don't like it. So everybody make decision for themselves. Is this a better use of knowledge? Can this system work? No. The answer is no. There is still a problem. If we don't have a central players, everybody make decision for themselves, what's the problem? The problem is, however, the individuals can't decide solely, just purely based on their own knowledge. Why? Because the problem, each individual only possesses limited knowledge of his limited space and time, his surrounding, but he also needs you fit his decision into the whole pattern of the large economic system. So come back. He knows this knowledge, localized knowledge here, better than everybody else. But he also needs to know the information here. To do best decision for individual A, he also needs to know information around here. Not all information here, but all those information relevant to him. But if there is no communication mechanism, he only has limited knowledge, then he cannot do a good decision, right? So the question is how to communicate each individual further information of the things in the larger economic system or the millions of other individuals which he is concerned. So we need to pass other people's information to him or her. So you need to find a mechanism to pass information. The answer is very short. The problem is being solved by the price system or by the market. The price system is the market. So the complete picture is like this. You don't have central players anymore, but now you have a market price or price system. So we think price system actually as a mechanism for communicating information. So because information initially dispersed among individuals, but he just knows his limited knowledge better than everybody else, but he also needs to know some information posed by other people. But all he can do is now he can watch the market price. The price change, go up and go down. Suppose you have a little firm to produce car, then you want to know the steel price, the price of steel, the price of oil, the price of everything you want to buy, right? And how can you know all those different changes or all those different information? You just look at the market price. You don't need to fully understand what is going on in the whole world. All you need to do is look at all the price relevant to you. So in that way, this price will convey information to each players, right? But because every time you buy or sell some asset, you also give your information, inject your information into the price. So the blue arrow is every time you trade, you inject your personal information into the whole price system. Every time you watch the price system, you do decision based on this price system. That's information go from price to you. So this is a double line. You pass information to price system, also you absorb information from the price information, from the price system. So that is how a mechanism for communicating information. Now, probably this is a picture. So we look at the price system as a mechanism for communicating information. So with the existence of price system, then a better use of knowledge or better use of information can be achieved. There is no central players, just a market. Right? So I think it's sort of easy to understand. There is no equation or model, just logic. Actually, he go a little bit further, one step further. So he said, okay, so the price system is just a mechanism to pass information. But what most important thing is, we're stressing that economic problem arises always and only in the consequence of change. So the key word is change. Constant small changes make up the whole economic picture. And economics problem of society is mainly one of rapid adaptation to changes. Right? So this changes is like, think of something like evolution, right? Everybody, the world is different. Today's world is different from yesterday's world, and tomorrow is different from today. Everywhere, every day there is small changes. So if your economic system is really smart enough, you should have a quick or rapid adaptation to those changes, right? But this is the advantage of price system. Price system is a system that enables individual to watch merely the movement of price. So you can adjust your activity to change, to those changes reflected in the price system. What does this mean? Every day there is many changes happening in this whole world. But if you have a price system, that change in our world will get reflected by the changes of prices. Starting point is the change of the world, but then immediately the price system will reflect those changes. Then for all those millions of individual persons, you just watch the movement of price change. Then you have a sense of what is going on in this world. So this is more or less like evolution, right? Is evolution. It's like how you can be a smart way to adapt to the fast change world, right? So this is also about the innovation. Every time if there is an innovation, if you have a price system, well-developed price system, the price system will make the innovation to develop faster and faster, eventually benefit everybody, right? So this is eventually the last few pages of this paper became a little bit philosophic, so it's not that easy to read, but it's just 2 or 3 pages. Because this paper was written like 70 years ago. In those old years, people want to be a little philosophic. That's a feature of those old years, right? So he said, this price system or the market is not a product of any deliberate human design. This is not outcome of anybody's design. No engineering designed this market or price system. The price system is just evolved without deliberate design. That's a key feature. Because the price system started maybe, I don't know, hundreds of years ago. Initially, I guess it's from some Italian cities. Eventually go to Netherlands, then Great Britain, Spain, and American. You can see this. This market or the capitalism is actually evolved without deliberately design, right? So some people worry about something without design can really solve important problem in our society. Another example is language is also not an outcome of deliberate design. Language is very useful, right? Critical, important thing, but no one really designed language. It just evolved over the past maybe hundreds or thousands of years. Or culture. So there are many very important things in our society, not a product of design. It just evolved over time. And the price system is just one of them. Then why this is philosophical? Because if your central topic is how the market works, central planned economy. Central planned economy is the outcome of human design. It's like a machine. It's like a car. It's like an airplane. No matter how smart that machine is, it's an outcome of human design. But market is not. Market is outcome of hundreds of years of evolution. So you compare something evolved over hundreds of years with something human design, who will win? And he believes that in this case, this system evolved over time will win, right? because he can better use of knowledge, and central planned economy can't. So it's in this paper, a sentence is like, this price system is just one formation which people has learned to use after he has stumbled upon it without understanding it. And essentially, the feature of this price system is extended the span of our utilization of resources beyond, the keywords is beyond, the span of control of any one mind. So any individual, no matter how smart you are or how powerful you are, there is a boundary of your control, right? Even if you're a really powerful politician, but still you have a boundary of the span of your control, right? A good thing about the market economy is we have this utilization of resources beyond any possible span of control of any mind, right? So I think another way to look at, I like analogy, right? So I think a perfect analogy I found is by another guy. It's called Coase. This is another economist who won Nobel Prize. He's also a Nobel Prize winner. I think he has a single sentence I like it so much. He thinks the whole economy, capitalist economy, is like islands of conscious power, like firms and individuals. Why this is a conscious power? Because you have your mind, right? Conscious power is like people or like CEO, right? You just do decisions. In the ocean of unconscious corporations, the market. So the market is like the ocean. Each individual or each firm is like small island. So within this island, you can make your decision based on your mind, based on your consciousness, based on all those smartness of your, but the whole economy is not a corporation of single mind. The whole economy is like the ocean. It's unconscious corporation. The keyword is unconscious corporation. This is a whole market. It's like a whole ocean. And each individual is like a small island. I like this. By the way, he also won Nobel Prize largely because of this paper. I'm not going to talk about this paper, but I like this single analogy of this paper. Island of conscious power in the ocean of unconscious corporation. But this is a classical view of the capitalist economy or the free market economy. But there is a competing view, right? What is competing view? Don't think of, in this view, the market is like ocean. But this is a competing view. It's like visible hand and invisible hand. I have two hands. Visible hand and invisible hand. Have you heard of that? So the market is just tool for me to allocating resources. That's invisible hand of mine. And I have a visible hand of mine, that's government planning. So I just do the job with two hands, right? There's two tools. One is called market, one is called government planning. Then I will do a pretty good job. What's the problem? This is a competing view. This essence of this view is just look down upon market. Just think market as a tool of you. You just use this tool. So if you think of this as a tool, there's something below you, right? Right? But the problem is, whose hand? Is this a central authority? This is a conscious power. Whose hand? There's always a problem here, right? Who is the guy? I don't know his face. I don't know his body. But who is this guy? Who grabbed those tools? That's always a problem, right? So in this picture, you always has authority here, invisible, but they are there. So that's a difference between. I think this is not just about China, right? Even in Australia, I think I live in America for a total of 14 years before I came to Australia. The attitude towards market, I can sense a difference between Australia's attitude towards market as Americans' attitude towards market. there is a tiny difference. The market, the Americans, on average, look at the market as something above, or not as a tool at all. But there is another view not just in China, but also in European countries or in Australia. They really think social planning is a good thing. And the market is just a tool for some people to do a better job at social planning. And not everybody believes that, but especially in Canberra, many people are employees of the government. Many people believe that this picture instead. But I think this picture and this two are different view, completely different view. The key difference is, one is this ocean is an unconscious corporation. And this guy, you always has a question, who controls those two tools? Who controls those tools? Okay. So that's the end of that. Why this topic is related to our chapters? Because remember, we're still in this chapter, efficient market hypothesis, right? That's what we talked about before the teaching break. The definition of efficient market hypothesis is the stock price. Now we come back to stock market. Because Hayek's work is all about all the markets, not just about financial market. Now we just narrow down to financial market, okay? Financial market, there is something called efficient market hypothesis. And what is definition? Definition is stock price already reflect all available information. Now, with the background of Hayek's work, this is easier to understand, right? It's all about information or knowledge. So the picture is like this. Suppose this is a financial market price. Now we know the price is a mechanism to convey information, right? So you have many investors or traders or players in this financial market. Everybody just trade this asset a little bit, so inject the information. Initially, information is dispersed among all those individuals. You inject your information into the market price by doing some kind of trade. And also you learn information from the market price. So this is a double line, right? Exactly what. So information initially dispersed among all individuals. Eventually, this stock price or the financial market do a good job at conveying information, a mechanism to pass information to everybody. Then eventually, the fundamental goal is to better use of information or better use of knowledge. So in that sense, I think this market price is just like a big mirror, right? Reflect all available informations. It's just a mirror. So let me use a knowledge how this big mirror looks like. So what is the market? So if I have a knowledge, this is a market, like a big mirror. We want the surface of this mirror as perfect as possible, so he can do the reflection job as best as possible. So stock price reflects all available information. In ideal case, of course this is not realistic, but ideally it should reflect all available information. If the market reflects all information, we call this market efficient, 100% efficient. If it can reflect all available information. Then if this can be achieved, then we can ensure the optimal use of knowledge or the optimal use of information is achieved. So in that sense, because many years ago, more than 20 years ago, when I was a college student in China, I learned politics courses, right? I don't know about today whether you learn that still. But the first year undergraduate, we learned the revolution history of Chinese Communist Party. The second year, I learned the philosophy of Marxism, and so on and so forth. And I forgot most of them, but I know that they say communism society or communist society is ideal, like a fairyland. It's like object. One day we may get there in that theory system. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day we might get there, a communism society. So it's like a perfect world, the perfect world. I don't know, one day it could be 100 years later or 1,000 years later, but it's like object. So the question is parallel. In the Western economics, is there some world called the fairyland, the future world, so perfect, and one day we may get there? It's like parallel to communism. But market economy, yes, the answer is the future world or the ideal world. What's the name of it? It's called efficient market. We are not there yet, but if what is perfect world looks like, it will be 100% efficient market. That would be the ideal world, right? This is the object. So of course, today's world is not 100% efficient. There are flaws. I mean, the role of financial market is to reflecting information. But maybe the surface of that mirror is not that perfect. There are flaws, there are weaknesses, there are all sorts of errors happening. It could be very much possible. So the price is right if the market is 100% efficient. But we know that it's not. But how to examine the market is efficient or not that's identical to examine whether the price are right or wrong. Because there is no way you can measure the price and say it's like 96% efficient or 92% efficient. It doesn't make any sense. There is no single way to measure efficiency of the market. We cannot say that the market is 90% efficient or 70% efficient. We cannot do that. So instead, we measure whether prices are right or wrong. That's an indirect way to test whether the market is efficient or not. So how to test market is right or wrong? Then you will need model. Because without economic model, there is no way to say the price is right or wrong. Right? So this model is about all we learned over the past few weeks. Capital asset pricing model, CAPM, is one model. And Fama-French three-factor model is another model. And Fama-French five-factor model is another model. So on and so forth. There are many economic models. So why those models are useful? Because of this alpha. I come back to alpha, right? So we know that this alpha could mean anomaly, all right? But in the light of efficient market hypothesis, we can rethink of this alpha. Suppose the model is right. Suppose this model is right. The alpha should be 0. Alpha should not exist at all. But if alpha exists, then the alphas are just pricing error. So the price is wrong. Price is not right. So if you have significant alpha, that means there is a lot of pricing error in the market, which means the market is not efficient at all. So the question is whether the market is efficient became a question, whether there is significant large pricing error in the market. So to change the question a little bit, become you can technically test that. So if the market is efficient, it will be very, very difficult for any investors to consistently to generate alpha. So now alpha is actually related to market efficiency and also whether the market can do a better job at utilizing knowledge or information or not. So to sum up today, so remember at the first week or the second week, I say the market, you can think of the market as a super AI. You might think that doesn't make sense, why it's a super AI. But now you can think of this as super artificial intelligence in the sense it collects a super amount of data this is really big amount of data from everybody in this economy, then he has some kind of secret computation to calculate the price out. Then everybody can observe the outcome of that calculation. So in that sense, the market is really like super artificial intelligence without any machine. It's very much, it's somehow like today's the cloud computation, right? It's decentralized, but still a super AI. Not a consciousness force, but super good. So that's the end of today's lecture. And again, please read that Hayek's paper. It's a classical paper. And thank you for coming. And good luck with your exam.